All right.
Hello and welcome.
Welcome. My name is Cherie.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Becky.
Special guest star this time around.
And we're Technomadia and
Interstellar Orchard.
And this all came together. This is our regular monthly video chat. And usually it's just Chris and I presenting, but we just happened to leave Quartzsite, and Becky was going the same direction as us.
So we lured her into a wonderful, amazing boondocking location.
Shh, we're not telling you where.
Yeah, secret spot. One
It's
of the
really
best.
good.
And it's really good. And we're like, we've got this amazing person here with us in this incredible boondocking spot, and we've got bandwidth to spare. Let's interview.
I asked her, "You want to go on camera with us?" And she
Yes.
says, "Sure."
Yes.
And then she
Let's
freaks
do
out.
it.
Yes. And the topic, why, and particularly why her? What's the topic?
So tonight's topic we thought would be interesting to tackle with her. It's a question we get asked a lot, but we have minimal experience with it to really share, and that's on solo RVing. A lot of people watch our videos. We talk about it from a couple's perspective of the two of us traveling together. And we know that there are a lot of amazing, adventurous solo folks out there who want to hit the road on their own or are already on the road on their own. And we thought Becky would have a wonderful perspective. Because when did you hit the road?
I hit the road in September of 2012. I've been a solo full-time RVer for over 3 years now.
And,
Awesome.
And you're obviously not retired.
No, obviously not retired.
Not a trust fund baby.
Not a trust fund baby. I wish.
If there's any trust fund daddies or mommies out there looking for a trust fund baby.
available.
Adoptable, yes. Okay.
So what do you do to afford this?
Mostly I work camp for a living. So I do national parks, retail work in the summer. And during the fall, I work for Amazon.com in their Camper Force program. And I'm kind of like a Christmas elf. And that's where most of my money comes from. I do write a little as well.
Awesome. So what inspired you to hit the road? I mean, how did you get on the road? What made you decide to do this?
I've loved traveling from a young age. I have fond memories of family camping trips when I was a kid in a tent. And I moved away from my home in Wisconsin when I was 25 years old. Spent a couple years down in South Carolina, which my parents thought even that was a long distance to drive. And I got down there and I'm like, this is really great. I kind of want to keep traveling. Paying for a U-Haul is really expensive. What else can there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's kind of how I found full-timing and
you actually are living in a super small casita too. That's your rig of choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I full-time in a 17-foot travel trailer. I pull it with a mid-sized truck. It's worked really well for me.
Okay.
Cool.
And then, so longtime readers know that Chris started out solo. We weren't always a couple.
Yeah.
And back in 2006.
April 1st, 2006, I hit the road from San Francisco in a little, actually it was a borrowed Jeep at the time, and my trailer wasn't even ready, so I was hitting the road in just a Jeep for the first few days. Heading off solo, I always wanted to travel. I decided to just jump at the opportunity, threw myself out the door, and the one thing I thought I'd be putting off for traveling like that was actually having any sort of relationship or partnership. And little did I know after just in my first year on the road I would meet Cherie. But I did set off solo and had a bit of solo travel time before I met her.
Yeah, I'm a wrecker of solo travelers,
Yes.
apparently.
Yes.
Watch out for this one.
Derailed my solo plans.
All right. So I have some questions here that we talked about beforehand about what things. She obviously feels a lot more questions about solo RVing than we have, so I picked her brain before we started about what we wanted to start with. And probably the top question that you get, and I know we get from solo travelers, is safety. Is on the road, is, when there's two of you, you've got extra ears, you got extra eyes, you got two different personalities to navigate things, you got, someone...
People are a lot... have that just fear of like, oh, solo person, they're either they're a sketchy person or sketchy people are going to come after them, and particularly solo women seem to, a lot of people worry about them on the road.
Yes, probably the number one question I get as a solo full-time RVer is, what about safety? Do you feel safe traveling alone?
Well, do you?
Yeah, actually, for the most part, I do. I say my number one defense for personal safety against people who might mean me harm is just common sense. For instance, when I'm parking overnight at like in Walmart parking lots or truck stops, I always make sure I'm parked somewhere that's well lit. I kind of case the neighborhood before I pull in to see.
So we should be afraid of solo RVers.
It's like, who's got unlocked doors? Where are all the valuables?
Not quite how I meant. Okay. But yeah, look at the neighborhood and kind of get a feel for what kind of place it is. And if there are people around, or if I'm much less likely to stay in a place if it's got an abandoned feel to it. And I sometimes I get asked quite often actually, like, have you ever been in an unsafe situation on the road? And to be honest, I haven't really. There've been a couple times when I've pulled into some place like late at night or some place that was abandoned, and I just kind of get this feel that something's not quite right. And you know what? If you ever get a feeling like that, your house has wheels.
Yes.
I mean, the best thing to do, you just pick up and you drive until you find some place that feels right. And following that intuition, like I said, I've been on the road 3 years, and I haven't been in a bad situation yet. So I don't think that the roads of America are as unsafe as the media portray them to be.
Cool. What are any other tips or strategies that you have for protecting your safety? Obviously, you talked about being in well-lit areas and casing the neighborhood.
Casing.
Anything else that you keep an eye on, or you like look for campground reviews for safety things, or anything, other resources that you might use to?
Yeah, I do pay attention to reviews I get from other people. For instance, if I'm out camping by myself and I'm going to be taking like a long hike, for instance, I might tell my neighbor or somebody up at the campground, hey, I'm traveling alone. I'm going to be out doing this. I expect to be back at this time. It wouldn't help me if I needed immediate help, but at least I know that somebody, if I don't show up, will be coming for me.
And I think actually, particularly as a solo person, is just meeting your neighbors and introducing yourself to your neighbors goes a long way towards that safety, because then feel like once you get that feel, does this person feel like a good person? They've got eyes on you, and you just feel that there's like somebody else who's watching over you. And that really made me feel safe when I felt in strange places.
Did you ever feel unsafe, Chris? I mean, as a male, it's probably a little bit different than because you're.
I never felt physically well, no, I mean, maybe I did, particularly as I was, diving into RVing for the first time ever. I'd never really done this kind of camping, and I started off doing a lot of boondocking and urban stealth camping, where I'm parking in dark, sketchy areas and neighborhoods that, just didn't quite know, and I didn't case them in advance necessarily.
Just got cased.
I was in a really tiny trailer, and sometimes I'd be inside of it, and I'd wake up at night, and I'd hear people outside talking about, hey, do you think there's somebody in there? And I don't know, that's too small. Nobody'd be in that tiny thing. And it freaked me out a few times until I just really got used to chilling out and, meeting people, and just seeing most people reacted really positively to, the strange guy who pops out of this small trailer and says, hey. But yeah, there was a few times I felt a little unnerved, and one of my very first times I slept alone in the trailer in a strange place, I just had nightmares. I kept waking up over and over again. It's like somebody's gonna shove a knife through the door or through the wall, or a
bear's gonna come and get you.
Yeah.
Eat you.
And that passed really quickly. It didn't last long, and there was never any real fears. Nothing ever.
Anything was it? Did you start out with any fears or anything like that when you were hitting the road? Didn't it?
Yeah, I mean.
Or you just kick ass from the get go.
No nightmares.
I never really had the nightmares.
I only had one night.
My parents' biggest worry about me hitting the road was personal safety. That's something they brought up really early on when I told them what I planned on doing. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I definitely gave it some thought about what I could do to to keep from running into that kind of a situation. And again, common sense ended up being I'd say is my biggest weapon.
Yes.
But I mean, there's other things that solo people can do to help stay safe on the road. I mean, you can carry mace, or even, for instance, like wasp spray, because it's got a nice long range on it.
I remember one of the first times that we stopped for fuel when we were going cross country. There was a solo female RVer, and her husband stayed at home. He didn't like to travel, so she went out for like 6 months out of the year. So being solo doesn't mean necessarily being single. It just might, maybe if your partner doesn't want to travel, that could be another case. But she was out on her own, and I think she was in her late 50s, maybe early 60s. And she told me that, she would have a lot of guys come up and try to hit on her. And she would sometimes feel like maybe they were trying to follow her back to the RV, maybe looking for an invitation to come in, things like that. And she said one of her strategies is she was to start talking about her menstrual cycle. And she was postmenopausal, but she says every single time those guys went away.
Well, there you go. That'd be a strategy.
That's a defense strategy there.
Oh. I mean, there are other things I've heard of single women doing, like, for instance, putting out an extra pair of boots at night, or making sure they have 2 camp chairs in front of their rig. And I've personally never felt like things like that were necessary, but if that's what you need to feel comfortable with it, I mean, it certainly can't hurt.
Mm-hmm. So probably the second most common question I know we hear and you heard, and the question's already been asked in the group. And so, okay, loneliness on the road is definitely something that solo RVers have to face up to. So do couples, incidentally. Mm-hmm. We go definitely through times where we feel lonely. Of course, we have each other all the time, but
and the cat.
But we also.
But it was very different solo.
Yes, it's very different.
It's very different was solo.
So let's start with you, Chris. How did you deal with it? Because you came from a very community centric.
Well, yeah. I mean, I used to have coworkers and a ton of friends and a very active social life, and so I hit the road and I'm solo in this tiny little trailer, and it did freak me out. There were certain days where I would just not talk to a single other human being, and it'd just be like, I just want to talk to somebody. I want to talk to somebody. I see other people in campgrounds, and just that initial conversation would be really hard. Or I'm traveling, and my only interaction would be a drive-through window getting lunch, and I want to talk to another human being, please. And there were some days that felt really lonely until I started to learn how to connect with people. One of the things that actually worked really well for me was having this really strange, unique rig. So I had a clamshell tab trailer. So I'd go to a grocery store, buy groceries, pop open the back, the kitchen's outside, and by the time I've started to unload my groceries, I'd have 4 or 5 people pulling up saying, "What is that thing?" And I'd be like, "I live in this." And they'd be like, "You're full time in that?" And next thing I know, I've got a small crowd, but it's that same shallow conversation over and over again. That you live in that thing. Yes, I live in that thing, but at least I was talking to somebody, so there was that.
Talking to yourself.
But it was pretty hard to connect and meet people in some new places, and I'm not always the biggest extrovert, so I'd sometimes just be really just wishing people would come talk to me, and that was hard.
So you didn't just log on to Our Village and go meet people? There
was no Our Village back then. I did not know of any other younger RVers back then. I was by far the youngest in most of the places I'd go to I was only 33 when I first hit the road, and I was this strange anomaly. And then as a solo man, a lot of people are really hesitant to approach you or to have a conversation with you. I mean, I did have a lot of great encounters. I got invited to some great dinners. I met some really awesome people, but it took me a while to just develop, I guess, just that comfort in being alone. And once I was comfortable being alone, that's when the invitations just started to flow in. I had to let go of that, I'm fine. I'm completely fine with nothing happens. But once I was in that space, then suddenly I've got invites everywhere.
Could you identify as an introvert at first?
Yes. My situation was quite a bit different than Chris's. I had a very small social circle before I hit the road, and I always self-identify as an introvert. I don't need as much people time as a lot of people did. So I thought when I hit the road that it wasn't going to be a problem at all. People would ask me, "Oh, are you worried you're going to be lonely?" And I'm like, "No, I'll be out in nature. I'll be having a blast. I'll be out hiking." Like, if I didn't have contact with somebody for a full day, that didn't faze me at all. But then I discovered about 4 months, maybe 6 months into solo RVing, suddenly it hit me like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to a person really bad. I was working for Amazon.com night shift in Camper Force, so that meant that I was by myself working for 10 hours a day, and then I'd get home and it'd be dark and it was cold out, and I mean you're not gonna meet anybody in the campground at that point. and I felt like the really strong need to connect. So I learned, I guess, after the fact that for me, just the type of person that I am, I need deeper connections with fewer people instead of the superficial kind of conversations, because like Chris, occasionally I would get asked, oh, what's your rig, blah blah, that whole
Same
story.
questions.
Yeah, same questions, but that didn't really do it for me. So I had to learn to talk to as many different people as I could to see who kind of fit with me, and then take the step myself to make those deeper relationships that fulfill my need as that kind of a person. I did have an advantage in a way because I do mostly work camp, that at my jobs most often, I get to meet a lot of different people. I get to stay in campgrounds with other workers, so you really get to build up a relationship with those people. You find things you have in common. Like, for instance, after that first winter, my first rough winter with loneliness, I worked at Badlands National Park. And I met a bunch of my coworkers who loved to go hiking. So every day after work, we would go out hiking together, and I'd, get to talk with them about stuff. And that, like, after that first summer, I just learned that that's what I do. Just start talking with people.
And blogging also, for me, blogging was a way for other people to find me and connect with me, and then I'd get invitations to it. And actually, that's partially how I met Cherie, was being active
blogging.
on blogging. And I'd develop these rich connections online, and they'd lead to invitations in interesting places. And then I'd have I could start without the basic conversation over and over and over again.
Yeah, because that way people already know it if they follow your blog.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It kind of worked that way for me.
And then other tools is, using a lot of the online networking resources
It's gotten
now.
so much better.
The Facebook groups, Our Village, dating sites.
Yeah.
Even though we're not actively dating, obviously, we keep active profiles on OkCupid where we have them set as we're not looking for anything, but we're traveling through, and if you happen to find us here and you want to show us something cool in your town, we're open to going out and having a tour guide. And we've met some great people that way, and we've met other nomads.
Yeah, actually, we have.
Yeah. We actually had one show up the other night to our meet and greet because she found us
on
OkCupid,
Yeah.
and it was great.
Worked out quite well.
So that kind of segues into romance on the road.
Romance on the road.
But before we get there, for those of you that are still tuned in and still receiving this, go
Sorry
ahead
about
and
the technical
cue.
difficulties.
Yes, we apologize so much. We know this is very frustrating. We are going to archive this, so hopefully you can catch it later if you need to. But if you do have questions for any of the three of us, whether it be about solo RVing, about Becky, about Chris's time as a solo RVer, or RVing in general, please do go ahead and start queuing those up in the chat screen, and we will address those, and they will make it onto the archive even if this video doesn't keep broadcasting for the rest of the evening. But we're going to go ahead and talk about romance on the road as a solo traveler, and talk about that. So you both hit the road comfortably single.
Comfortably single was not actively looking. That was the one thing I thought I'd be putting on hold for as long as I was going to travel. I didn't know there was going to be a year, 2, or 5. I thought I'd be putting a serious relationship on hold, and I was caught by surprise because it actually, dating on the road was easier than I expected it to be, and then I met Cherie. So,
So you've experienced too that. So what are some of your, because you've done a little bit of dating on the road.
Yes, that's right. I am happily single. I'm not really actively looking for a partner on the road, but every now and then, it can be kind of a fun thing to do, to hook up with somebody who's local to the area that you're traveling in, and then you get like an insider's perspective on the place that you're visiting and the things to go and see and do. I personally used Match.com. I made a profile on there, and I met up with a couple people. It worked out really well. I will say that if you're going to go that route, you definitely do want to be very clear about your intentions before you start. You got to let people know.
We're frozen again.
sorry about the strange internetness.
This is going to be fun to fix some post production.
Oh, this is when we need to get the wine out or something, because there's nothing worse than being solo on the road and having your internet go down. Because at least when you're with somebody, you can talk to. And when the internet, that was actually some of my most frustrating time when I was a solo traveler, because internet was a lot harder 10 years ago.
I bet so.
And the connection be out, and that was my online social life, and I'm sitting by myself, and I'm like, battery's running dry, and the lights are dimming, and the internet's down, and I'm like, yes. So sorry.
All right, let's finish up this romance thing. And what were we talking about? Using.
I was explaining how I used Match.com, how it's a good tool to meet people. You just need to be really clear in your intentions if you're going to go that route. With, you know, what you're looking for. For instance, like, if you're not looking for a long-term relationship or somebody to join you, just to let your, you know, your profile express that and be very upfront and clear so that you don't leave broken hearts behind you, because that'd be no fun.
Yes. No, if you're not looking for a partner or a long-term relationship, to say, hey, I'm just in town for whatever, how long you think it's going to be. And, you know, it's like, I'm just looking for a companion, basically.
And then sometimes when chemistry talks, then you listen to it, because, you know, Cherie and I just got together to have a quick meeting, in a sense.
We weren't even looking for dating.
Yeah,
I mean, I definitely was not looking for a partner. He wasn't looking for a partner.
No, it was just like, oh, here's a cool person coming to town. Let's get together and get to know each other in person, because we'd gotten to know each other online a little bit. And then we really clicked that first day, and by the end of that first date,
we knew our lives were better for more than that. I mean, it quickly went from thinking, well, I might fly out every so often, join them on the road for a week or two at a time. That'll be a fun thing to do, be a cool guy to get to know. And it was...
Then she's inviting me to come across to Florida, and let's go on a cruise together and do this and that. And I was like, okay, my house has got wheels, which is an advantage for dating on the road, I guess, is that you can
do that. But it can put you into, if you are a solo traveler, or you know, or you're open to dating, and you do meet someone that you really click with, and they're stationary, or they're not a fellow nomad who can just join up on the road with you or have different paths, you do have to start to figure out how you want to handle that. You know, and as I was mobile, but I was home based, is, you know, we had to figure out, you know, was he going to come in and move in with me? Was he going to, like, get a spot in Florida and we were going to date and figure it out from there? Was I going to hit the road with him long term? And, you know, he had to make adjustments in his life. I had to make adjustments in mine.
It was in a very small trailer that was picked out and intended for just one person. It was a big adjustment for both of us to decide to try and hit the road full time in a tab. If you haven't seen a tab, go look up a tab. They're tiny.
Yep. So yeah, romance on the road, definitely possible if you want it. Not everyone who is solo, do not assume that if someone is solo that they're looking to date. We know a lot of solo people who are very happy being solo, being single, and have no interest in romance or romantic entanglements.
I guess a lot of it comes down to is, yes, solo RVing can be extremely rewarding. It can be very social if you want it to be social, and it's worth doing, even if you don't have a partner who's willing to do it with you right now. Like, absolutely get out there. You can have a lot of fun with it.
And one other thing on that is, if you are looking for a partner and you also are called to travel, you're most likely to find a compatible partner if you go start living the life that you want, and then the people who are drawn to that will be drawn to you. If you sit at home waiting to find your perfect travel partner, you'll never find that perfect travel partner. So get out there.
Yeah. All right, so I think it's time to start to the questions.
Questions.
If we do not answer your question, it's not because we're dismissing you. It's because it's probably way down on like 3 archives down, and I can't get to it right now. So we're going to take the ones that we can. Do we want to open wine?
We might need it.
I think we need wine after this.
Technical difficulties.
Tonight we're doing, apparently we pronounced it wrong last one. It's
Boogle?
I guess. I don't
Boggle?
know.
I would say boggle.
But we got
It's
criticized.
got a pretty bottle.
Yes.
It's a Petite Syrah this evening. One of our favorites. And
when there's technical difficulties, wine sometimes helps.
Yes. And typically this is the point where we say, if you like our video chats, well, we like wine. If you'd like to help out with this, go to our website and use the leave a tip button. But this evening, I would like to encourage you to go over to Interstellar Orchard and use the donate button or purchase her book. She has a book on solo traveling on a budget that she came out with last year, and you are working on a second one right now, right?
Yep, I am.
Yeah! Yay! The third cup, yes. So please support Becky this evening. Any support that she gets keeps her from having to work at Amazon.
Yeah.
We personally would love her more on the road interacting with us and having remote income than working these work camper jobs where she's off on her own.
That's true. It's a little lonely sometimes.
All right. So I think the most frequent question I have seen asked so far is people want to know what's the origin of your blog name? Interstellar Orchard.
Interstellar Orchard.
First of all, toast.
Cheers.
Cheers to good friends, even being solo.
And good
Yes.
connectivity.
Yes.
Even being solo.
That's right. Interstellar Orchard. I honestly came up with that name up the top of my head. It didn't come from anywhere. I was seeing when I was starting my blog all of these people with blog names like so and so hits the road or so and so on wheels or blah 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 travels, and I just wanted to be different. I wanted something that would stand out, and I was a part of this like online chat room thing long before I hit the road, and one of the room names in there was Interstellar Orchard. I came up with it for that, just to be different.
Cool.
So that's where the name came from.
Yeah, Technomadia kind of came that way. It was like the name of your music collection you shared with Steve
Roberts. Yeah, it was the original Technomad.
So it's just like, oh, okay, we'll take that.
Yeah.
I had a playlist called Technomadia, rips from Technomadia. So
Yep. All right.
Very cool.
So I'm going to start addressing the questions from there. They want to know what your Instagram name is, and since that's one of our missions together here is to get you set up on Instagram, we'll let you know later.
Yes,
Will it be-
she's gonna.
I'm joining Instagram.
We're going to get her on Instagram.
You took her fire virginity the other day. Now you're gonna take her Insta virginity.
Oh
And
my.
it's like,
I didn't know it was that kind of show.
Instagram's a special place. No.
So yes, she will be on Instagram soon. Will you go with Becky Shade, or do you think you'll use Interstellar Orchard as your Instagram name?
Interstellar Orchard. Oh no, Becky.
And that might be too long. I don't know.
Well, yeah, true.
We'll let you know.
We'll let
Okay.
you know.
Stay
Check
tuned.
the Technomadia feed. We will introduce her when she comes online. All right. Does your family ever join you on the road?
No. My family love living in their big house, and they're not real big on traveling, but I do have to say they've gotten used to the fact that I've traveled, and they really enjoy that my house has wheels and I can come and visit them whenever I want to.
But you have had your friend Julie join you.
Yes, I have not always traveled alone. There was about 6 months of last year where my best friend Julie came out, and she traveled with me inside the casita with her cat, and we did work camping together, and that was interesting. But yeah, when it's my family, I go home and visit them for a month or so at a time, and that works out really well for us. So.
All right. Let's see if I can find some other questions here, because they all went away. This is so much fun.
Do not know the source of the problems. We have a technical annoyance.
All right. So we have a question about, can you comment on your monthly budget, and do you have health insurance?
Sure. I actually just finished doing my 2015 financial stuff, so this is actually a pretty great timing for this. In 2015, my average monthly cost of living was $1,309. Now, it wasn't that every month. Some months it was really high, and some months it was quite low, but that's what it averaged out to. And yes, I do have health insurance. I'm through the marketplace. The Affordable Care Act really changed the insurance scene for full-time RVers pretty dramatically. I used to have a high deductible plan that was pretty cheap, and I just did my regular preventative stuff, out of pocket. And now I am enrolled on the marketplace through, well, first of all, I'm a South Dakota resident, and it's through Avera, right? Yeah, Avera.
Okay.
And it costs me with the subsidy, because I don't make a whole, I'm not rich. With the subsidy, I am paying $58 a month for it this year, for 2016.
But you have a really high deductible, and
Yeah, it's a $5,000 deductible. It's a bronze level plan. It was the second lowest one that I could get. There are, of course, other options out there if you want better coverage, but since I don't really intend to go back to South Dakota very often to get that kind of care, for me it made more sense to save the money.
Wow. All right. So what has been your favorite job so far, and why?
My favorite job. That's a really tough one, you guys.
I hate the favorites questions. Like, what's your favorite place?
Yeah, that's really tough. I always tell people that I work at national parks in the summer to have fun, and I work at Amazon in the fall to make money. So I've definitely enjoyed my summer jobs more than my fall jobs. I have worked at Badlands National Park, Zion National Park, and this past summer I was at Yellowstone.
Awesome.
And I've loved them all dearly. I really can't pick a favorite between those three places.
And these are real jobs, not volunteer jobs.
Yes, these are.
You're working like in gift stores and things like that, right?
Yeah, I work for concessionaire companies that have a contract with the government to provide goods and services within the national park. So I'm not actually a National Park Service employee. I work for a company. And you can get jobs like hospitality, like hotels, or working in gift shops, which is what I do. I had a lot of experience with customer service and retail before I hit the road, so it just made sense since I had the experience to keep doing that. So I've worked in gift shops and restaurants as well. Like the restaurants, servers, and even like cooking and maintenance people. There's a lot of options out there for working in the parks.
All right. Also on the subject of working is how hard is it as a single person to get a work camping job? Because some of you are looking for couples. Do you encounter problems with that?
Sometimes, yeah. When you go online, especially like park hosting kind of jobs, a lot you'll see that the employer is looking for a couple to split the work between them, and also to get 2 workers for the cost of one site.
Yes.
But I actually there are still a lot of opportunities out there that'll take single people, and I haven't had a problem finding a job as a single person. You might have to look a little bit harder, but it's really not a big deal.
Okay, let's see. Becky, is your truck 6 or 8 cylinders?
I have a 2001 Dodge Dakota, and it is a V8. It's a 4.7 liter V8 engine in it.
Cool. And
I find that does tow my trailer really well.
All right. Any issues dealing with family disapproval before starting to solo RV? I think you both can talk about that.
Yeah, I not so much disapproval, but it took a while for my family, my parents in particular, to think of it as a lifestyle and not a phase, not a 1-year trip or something. My parents have always been huge fans of traveling, and I grew up traveling and living around the world, but it was hard for them to see living on the road, and in particular it was hard for them to see me living in such a small space. I think that was their biggest glitch in their whole processing of how is this possible. Now that I've got a 35-foot bus and a wonderful partner, they're completely love the lifestyle.
What about your family?
My family, when I first told them I was planning on going full-time RVing, they definitely had reservations. As I mentioned before, most of that stemmed from safety. They were worried about me being safe on the road. I found it helpful to know the question, to guess the questions that they were going to have, the problems they were going to have for it, and have answers already ready. So I did not tell them right away when I decided. I was pretty far along into the process. In fact, I'm pretty sure I already had bought the truck and knew exactly what trailer I was going to get before I told them. And I told them kind of mentally prepared to answer their problems. So when they're like, oh, what about safety? And I told them, well, Mom, first of all, common sense. I'm going to be careful about being in places that have other people around and are well lit. I'm going to have, the mace, the wasp spray in place to help that. I'll let people know when I go out hiking on my own so that somebody always knows where I am, and I'll make friends with my neighbors. And when they were like, oh, but how are you going to earn money? How are you going to pay for this? I had already lined up my first work camping job before I hit the road, so I was able to tell them, all about that, and I already had a budget worked out. So I kind of laid my answers out one on top of another. I was on top of it before I told them.
Did your homework.
Yeah, I did my homework.
You showed you thought it through. And that just wasn't just a whimsical thing you decided to do.
Yeah, that helped them feel a lot more comfortable about it, knowing that I was serious. So, yeah.
All right, so we have a couple questions from different viewers, and it's to all three of us. They want us each to answer. Where do we see ourselves in 10 years?
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
People ask me quite frequently, so how long do you plan to full-time RV? And my answer is always, until I feel like doing something else more.
That's kind of the answer I've always had. There's so many other adventures I want to have other than RVing, but I always want to keep doing different interesting things. So I've always wanted to travel overseas. I've wanted to live on a boat of some fashion. There's there's so much of the world to see, so much of the country to see. I've no end in sight to RVing, but it's also not the only thing.
Right. Yeah, I think we'll always be adventurous in doing different things and taking time out when it comes time. I mean, one reason I wanted to hit the road earlier, I mean, why it made so much sense when we hit the road at age 33, was knowing that our parents were healthy at that time, and there would come a time where we want to be there for our parents to help them when they reach an age where they can no longer be independent, and to really be there and help them through that and not feel like it's regretting it. So for me, that's been a lot about that. So I do foresee at a time where we're going to make a choice to go back,
be close to family,
be close to family when that time comes, and then go back and still have life left in us, hopefully, to go out and continue doing things. And for now, our priority, our travels are dictated around the cat.
Well, she picks where we go and what we do, so it all comes down to her.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. How do you manage your fitness needs on the road? Thanks probably to all of us.
Yeah.
Hiking.
Which how many hikes? We did 5 miles today.
Yeah, we actually did 3 different hikes today together, and just perfect breaks from work day. Is like, hey, let's go for a hike. And that's why we love to be places. I love camping places where I can just walk out my door and be hiking somewhere beautiful and not have to drive to someplace interesting. If it's
right, we're less inclined to do it to get the momentum going. So we seek that out in the places that we set up. Is what are the hiking and walking options around, and we just got electric folding bikes.
Yep, that we can also pedal. So
we can pedal and get out and do that. So we force ourselves to get active. Chris and I each have. He has the Apple Watch. I have a Fitbit, and we make sure that we're meeting our goals every single day.
Fill the circles.
And yeah, I've always been a pretty active person, and I love getting out in nature, and I love walking and hiking. So in that sense, going RVing actually has made me more fit, I think, than I was living in an apartment, because I'm inspired by all the beauty around me. So I feel motivated, like, to get out and do stuff and go experience it and see it. So
so definitely you got to make sure you get out there. Sometimes it can be easy to, but yeah, there's always so much going on, and I don't know, fitness, I think it's been easier on the road just because I get bored doing the same thing over and over. And when I live stationary, it's like I didn't want to go on the same walks or the same bike rides all the time or going to the gym or whatnot. So on the road, it's always different. And we move around and we pick our places to be places that are near the things that keep us active. And that's a priority for us. What about food? Do we cook or carry out?
We cook a lot.
We cook a lot, but I like going out too. We went out to dinner the other night.
How about you? Because as a solo, it's cooking for yourself is for me at least was always not nearly as exciting.
Yeah, that's true. For me, like, for instance, when I'm working at Amazon, I don't have a whole lot of hours in the day. I don't have a whole lot of free time. And without a second person to help share in the cooking duties and to, split up the food, it can be kind of a challenge, cooking. What I do when I have a working fridge, which I don't right now, but that's
you will next
Monday.
week.
Monday. She goes that's why she's with us and not getting it fixed right now.
But the best solution I've come up with is I will cook for multiple people, because it's just so much easier to cook for multiple people, and then I'll put servings away in the fridge, and so I end up having the same thing for multiple days in a row. But I'll break that up with, like, going out to eat, for instance, or sandwiches or something that doesn't need to be made in multiple servings. And it just worked out pretty well, even in a small trailer. Since it's just me, at least I don't have anyone to get in the way when I'm trying to cook, so I don't have to worry about that.
All right. Colleen asked, the winds are going on the water. Have you thought about that? Any aspirations for boating? I'm sure this is probably to both of us. So
we've always had an aspiration to it. It's just
we were thinking about boating before the winds were even thinking about RVing.
That's true. We've been to boat shows. We've looked at boats, and just in the right time, the part we don't try and force our path forward.
We're enjoying RVing still too much. We don't feel a need to move on from it, and it works really well for us right now. But yes, boating is on our horizon. Definitely, for sure.
Yeah, someday I'd like a Zeppelin, but those are harder to get.
Yeah,
that's
my
my fantasy.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Travel the world in a Zeppelin.
Yeah, not really for me. For starters, I'm not a very mechanically inclined person, and I think issues with keeping a boat well maintained is even harder than keeping an RV well maintained, so that wouldn't really work for me. And I isn't traveling by boat more expensive than RVing?
Can be. I mean, there's people who do it on all extremes.
Yeah, there are people who do it on a complete shoestring, and there are people who just throw money down into the hole in the water.
Yeah, I mean, that's one reason Chris and I chose a vintage bus, that we saw that as one of the benefits, was learning to maintain something older, especially a two-stroke diesel engine, which a lot of boats come with, is, getting used to those sorts of things, and just getting used to being something a little more mechanically challenging than what a trailer and truck that we could drive into any dealership would be. It's kind of get a little bit of it. We moved down to the Virgin Islands in 2010 into a sailing community. We rented a place, but we wanted to immerse ourselves in what a sailing community was like. And
we met a bunch of boaters there.
Met a bunch of boaters. So it's something on our radar, but it's also something that we find is going to be difficult to full-time boat and work. So we kind of look at that as we ease into retirement. Early retirement is something like that, where work isn't as much of a focus. So we got to work on that. Work is not a focus thing.
Workaholism is.
Yes. So, okay. All right. Darling asked, how old are all of us? I'm 42.
I am 31. I hit the road at 28.
I am 43. Hit the road at 33.
Yep. Let's see. Everyone's now putting their ages. Okay. These conversations in the chat room make it difficult. Okay.
There's the question we didn't get to. What are the advantages and disadvantages of traveling solo?
Yeah, that's very true.
Oh yeah.
I'll go first. Advantages. I don't have to worry about anybody's schedule but my own.
That's huge.
When I'm ready to move on, I'm free to do that. If I get to a place I really love but I want to stay longer, I'm free to do that. So I got a lot more flexibility in planning in that way, and not having to keep two people's needs in mind. Definitely a big advantage.
It basically that there's certain things that when you are just by yourself, that I feel like turning left just on a whim type thing, and where's this road going, that's kind of sense of raw in the moment adventure is a lot harder to come by when there's two brains involved, and two people in different mental states and stuff like that. The downside of that is it's so awesome to have adventures and then have somebody to share them with and talk about and stuff. So it's you could have kind of more raw adventures solo, but you also have kind of more richer. For me, it was just really wonderful to have somebody to share it with too. So
and of course he's not going to tell you how wonderful solo RVing with me sitting here.
There's things about solo RVing I miss, and there's things I absolutely love about having a partner to share travel with, which is, I never even considered, wow, somebody wants to do this also and live on the road and travel and go down strange little dirt roads like we're down right now, and we have awesome adventures.
We do. We mix it up really well.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we're so compatible.
Yeah.
Because when I met you, I was looking forward to being just solo. I'd been in relationship after relationship after relationship. I was looking forward to being single for a while. Last thing I wanted was another person to have a dictation on my life. But we just fit so well, and we even though sometimes we just say, hey, let's just do what you're feeling called to doing today. And giving you that freedom. And
the one last disadvantage I could come up with about being solo RVer is that I have to wear all the hats. When I'm traveling, I have to be the driver and the navigator, and I have to plan all the trips, and I have to do all the maintenance. All the setting up falls on me, and I have to cook. Basically, I have to wear all the hats. But the good thing about that is it has taught me how to do a lot of things that I never would have tried doing if I'd had somebody else to help lean on. I've become a lot more self-sufficient, and it's really helped my self-worth, learning how to do all those different things. So I think I've actually really grown as a person being a solo RVer, and in the end it's ended up being a good thing.
I went through a lot of that same growth too, because just when you're by yourself and something goes wrong, you don't feel pressure and stress to need to know how to fix it immediately.
Because you don't have someone else sitting over your shoulder.
You don't. And just that mental embarrassment is so I had some really embarrassing trailer fails as a new RVer, and it's
Well, at least the only one who's out is yourself.
And then you just sit there and puzzle it through and laugh. Get yourself to the laughing about it point as opposed to having to rush through it. And I learned a lot and just grew a lot as just how to take care of myself in that few of those examples.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you use solar power, and if so, what kind? And there's been a couple questions about your new solar setup. Chris and I have been solar powered since day one. With a brief break after we got the bus a couple of years ago. So all three of our RVs have had solar. We currently have 800 watts on our roof that was installed by AM Solar, and we have a 600 ground deploy system. We have a whole video on our RV solar system that we did about a year ago, so go look that up if you'd like more information, or go to technomadia.com/solar, and you'll get the full scoop on it. What's yours?
I've been solar powered for about 3 weeks now. My energy needs are actually pretty minimal. I'm pretty frugal with how I spend my energy. What I opted to do for this, which is kind of a trial run for me, I didn't want to invest a whole lot of money into something great and then decide that I didn't like boondocking, which, as it turns out, isn't an issue because I absolutely love boondocking. But I was playing it safe. I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. So I went to Amazon and I ordered a 100-watt portable suitcase solar kit. The brand is Renogy. It's pretty popular right now. And I've been really happy with it. I haven't run out of power yet, so it's got to be working out okay.
All right. How do you handle RV repairs on the road? Do you have a service, and I'm assuming an emergency roadside service, and if so, do they cover all states? We both have had service on the road. There's things that happen to the RV living systems, like Becky's having her refrigerator. Mm-hmm. You're getting a new one, and not just repaired. And yeah, you find resources to handle.
I don't have any sort of roadside assistance at all. I keep thinking it would probably be a good thing to have, but I got to think about my budget as well. For me, in my 3 years on the road, I have never had something happen to my RV that required me to stop and fix it before I could keep going. Now, pretty much every time I travel, something little happens that needs repairs, but it's always something that I can fix after I get to where I'm going. Which is kind of the case with the fridge. Like, I mean, yeah, it's bummer not having a fridge, but it's not like a critical item that I need for traveling. As I mentioned before, I'm not really technically inclined. Like, I'm not a mechanical person at all. YouTube videos have helped me a lot, and I also am a member of a forum community specifically for my type of trailer. So if something goes wrong, I can go on there and be like, what's this ammonia smell coming from? What's that mean? And I found out right away. It's like, oh, it's the fridge. And that's been super helpful. I've learned how to do caulking and riveting on my own. The more complicated things, I go to a shop.
Right, and we do a mix.
But we wouldn't travel in a vintage bus without CoachNet, though.
Yes, we have CoachNet.
Is wonderful.
We pay, I think it's about $130, $140 a year for it, and they have paid more than we've paid them.
Which is good.
Because our bus breaks down whether it needs it or not.
Yeah, but the old buses do, and it's usually not a big deal. And then but it just, if you have a big rig, a tow without a service could be bankrupting.
Right. Like when our engine went out, it's going on 3 years now, and we were 120 miles from the nearest big city. We were 20 miles from the nearest cell tower, and that tow and getting it up on a flatbed truck. That was easily a $2 or $3 grand tow, and we didn't see the bill for it. That's why I can't tell you how much it was, because we never saw the bill. But we know what they were charging. We talked to the drivers, and it was completely covered.
Anybody who's got a big rig, a Class A of any sort, new or old, they do have issues, and if they break down, it's just a cheap insurance policy to have something like CoachNet that will get you somewhere safe without you suddenly having this massive bill just to get off the side of the highway.
And not just the towing. I mean, the other thing that gives me is when something happens on the road and we can't diagnose it ourselves, and there has been lots of stuff we diagnosed ourselves and not called CoachNet for, is being able to call someone who has the contacts in the local community for authorized people to come out and help us. We've had 2 roadside assistants where they send out excellent mechanics who are able to help us get things solved.
In one case, just bring us a part. We just need a part. We know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And
I probably got a little bit of an advantage there since my tow vehicle is a regular truck. It's easier to find service for. Mm-hmm. I will say that maintain your vehicle. Don't wait for it to break down. Like, I think that's saved me so many times that I put a lot of money into my truck and trailer, keeping them up to date so that I'm less likely to have problems crop up while I'm traveling.
Preventative maintenance. Definitely a huge thing. So, Becky, if you won the lotto, or do you play the lotto?
I did play the lotto a couple weeks ago when it was like billions. I got in on a pool with some other people.
You basically have the same odds whether you play or not. So it's
So if let's say you did win, or someone handed you a whole bunch of cash, would you get a different rig or a bigger one?
I would not get a bigger rig. When I first started looking at full-time RVing, at first I wanted an Airstream because they were just so cool and the styling, but they're very expensive. And since then, I've kind of come to the conclusion that, the Airstreams are great looking inside. They're beautiful. Nobody can doubt that. But my casita has everything I need in it, and I don't really need more. So maybe I'd buy a brand new casita, but no, I think I'd just keep the same size rig. I'm happy.
Oh yeah, we were happy for many years, and same size rig for two of us. So definitely the 17-foot trailers.
The fiberglass trailers are such high quality for their size that
and a great value. I mean, the casitas even brand new, they're like $17,000-$18,000 brand new, and you can get them used for half that ish.
Yeah, I bought mine for $9,000.
So and they hold their value for years. You know, even ones that are quite old are still, the fiberglass doesn't really age that much.
Yeah,
so
my trailer is 17 years old in March. It's turning 17. And it's still in good condition. Like, if I keep up on the maintenance, it'll be good for years to come.
Yep.
So
cool. I think I've picked through the interesting questions and the ones I could actually find in this scattered chat thread that's going all over the place.
Thank you so much for putting up with the technical difficulties and hanging out with us tonight. There's still 144 of you, so hope this has been fun and not frustrating. And
it was frustrating, but thank you.
But hopefully it's more fun than frustrating.
Yes. Thank you guys all for watching. It's been a pleasure being here with Technomadia tonight to help put this on for you.
Yes.
And basically, solo RVing. Yes, do it.
I recommend it. If you're called to hit the road.
Yes, but if you're coupled and happily coupled, don't go solo RVing without your partner's permission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take your partner on the road.
Take your partner on the road. And if you're not compatible, find a way to make it work if one of you's called the other way.
Right.
And
anything else that wasn't there? Are we caught up?
I think we're caught up. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll try to make an archive out of this somehow.
Yes, it'll be pieced together. And cheers.